Welcome back to day 134 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO and chess.com. Let's just jump ahead and get started. We're at 1469 ELO today, at least prior to our game. So we get Jacquelome something from Spain, rated 1404, and we get a Polish opening, and I don't quite know what to play here. I guess we could go a d5 setup. This is not quite common. We could have played this as well and hit the pawn, I think, but honestly I think our opponent might be more booked up in that kind of a position. And also this kind of a pawn structure is something I'm more familiar with. We could play a5 as well. Could be interesting here, but didn't do it just yet. The bishop comes out. You know what? I think this might be interesting. And if takes, our rook gets active, but the pawn pushes. And this is intriguing. My intuition here tells me a4 has to be good to prevent this locking the pawn in, and this is already kind of prevented by this. So let's push up here and maybe play against this pawn on b5. We'll have to find a good setup to target it. Obviously we could come up here, but that's probably not good. We should develop our minor pieces first. This, and I don't quite want to block our development in other ways here. So it might not be as easy here as I might have wanted it to, and pushing this pawn either one or two moves is going to defend this pawn. So let's maybe not get too hyper fixated on this pawn on b5 just yet, and instead we might as well just play decent moves here. We can't play this, of course, because of the diagonal, but we could come up here, I guess, to e6, opening up our bishop scope. This is played, the pawn is defended. Where do we go now? Honestly, this move might not be all that bad. If our opponent pushes, of course, we take the pawn. And if this is played, I think we could take, and take. And I think we should have a decent pawn structure. Might not be all that bad. Yeah, so let's come up here, in fact. Try and strike at this. Most likely this is not the textbook move, but we'll still try and create something here. Don't quite love how all the pawns are suddenly on light squares, but it's my own doing, so I'll have to manage and deal with it. This is interesting, because it kind of stares down along here at this bishop. And if this is played, we could come here and this pawn, or well, we don't want to push this pawn here, in fact. So there we might want to come up like this. Either way, honestly, this development here is the furthest thing you'd ever see from a recommended opening. At least from what I've been playing now. Maybe we could come here, actually. Why though? I think I'd like to come down here to a7, for example. But this looks good as well. This allows us to go to f6 with our knight. Let's play a move. It probably doesn't matter all that much, but we should prepare some eventual castling. Realized this knight could just jump in here. Oh, this is played and I forgot about this diagonal. Our opponent, however, did not. Okay, so how do we go about punishing this? Can we? Probably not. If this doesn't work, so we're probably just losing a full rook. That's a crushing loss, but we'll try to find a way here of recovering perhaps, although our position here is definitely bad. It's not ideal at all, not at all. We can't recover here, we can't save the rook. And we can't castle easily here either because of this being open now. This complicates stuff a whole lot. But speaking of complications, if we do get into complicated territory, but there is this immediately. So again, we just have to give up the rook at this point, I think. So we'll come here maybe. This is played and we'll just have to do something here. This bishop can't be won. At least we got a pawn back, but we're down a full rook, so it's not as though we're in a good position. But still, we'll just try to find something that works here, and it might not be the end of the world. Don't quite want to develop like this, because this pin seems difficult to break. We can't push here. I guess getting the knight out might be a good idea. This diagonal is still crushing and not ideal for us. Let's come out with the knight. Thus far, this is not my proudest game, I'll have to say. If I were to guess, maybe 40% accuracy. Oh wow! I guess I'm just missing all the tactics today. Where is my head at? Honestly, I do not know what's happening here. I mean, I just got home and it's 10 p.m., but I don't think that's a proper excuse in that regard. I'm just apparently missing every tactic on the board, and it's not good. Let's just say it like that. This and this comes with a check, so we have to move the bishop. I think we want to keep material on the board here. So let's drop back maybe. Control some squares. Still, yeah, I think this is okay. Definitely not good for us still, but as we keep material on the board, we might get some tactics, which might come to help us. Our king is kind of cramped here. Is this a good move? I guess it forces some stuff up the board. This, and we don't win this because this is a move. Yeah, we don't want to keep on going back here, so I think we'll have to take. Our opponent, of course, is happy trading the material because of them being up a rook and a pawn. Of course. Yeah, so what's our best response here? This isn't a position where it's easy to make moves. I would like to get some potential long-term attack going against our opponent's king, although it's not quite committed yet, so it might be slightly difficult to do so. Don't want to just trade down either, this would be horrible. So I guess it's maybe about... might be a matter here of just involving our remaining pieces. Kind of kicking this knight out first maybe. Could try to create something down here. But we might want to get the rook here in fact to push like this. We can't come here. This bishop is kind of not ideal for us, but we need to get our pieces into the game here. Guess maybe this might work. Joining the game like this with our knight. We don't want necessarily, I think, to play with our minor pieces immediately, and I just realized I blundered another tactic here, because this is defended by the bishop. This might just be my worst game in a really long time, but you know, we all have to have those games at times as well. Our opponent didn't spot it, although this is still quite annoying to play against. The pawn hangs behind and through the knight because of an X-ray. If we play like this, this comes with a checkmate threat down here, because our king is slightly out of position. We could defend like this, but we get hit with this, and we would have to drop back. I don't think we can defend this h-pawn, in fact. And we might have to go here, allow this to be taken, play some arbitrary move, and then maybe have to go here. I don't see a great alternative. This pawn is difficult to defend, as I mentioned. The annoying thing is this is still a move. Hopefully it's not spotted. Now this is a checkmate threat almost, and this is not good either, because there is a checkmate configuration here perhaps. So where do we go? This, and honestly if this is played and we get pinned, we might have this, which I think saves us in fact, so this might be playable now, and we might have something there. Of course, if this or this is played, this is our only response. We're down 7 points of material, but we do still have quite a few pieces, so we might still have some chances here of creating something. It's just our king here is not in the best of positions, but we'll try to help him out, I guess. This pawn can't do a whole lot. Pushing this, does it accomplish anything? I guess it weakens this, but we get the bishop out temporarily. So I was looking at this maybe. Hitting the knight. How about coming out here maybe? Keeps eyes here and here. And it teams up like this, and we could have some discoveries here maybe. And might have a way of breaking stuff open to create some counterplay, which I think we desperately need to do. So let's come here, in fact, and see if we can get something done. This knight doesn't have a whole lot of good squares. And this is our only move, so let's play it and see what our opponent intends to do in response. This is a great tactic. We're forced to take, and this... I don't know how we save this bishop. Wow. I don't think I've been this crushed since I was like a few hundred ELO. Our opponent here is just blitzing each and every move, and I'm missing each and every tactic. Haven't gotten this crushed in a long time. But I'm making a lot of mistakes, so I guess it's maybe a bit easy to spot. I'm just flabbergasted by the fact I somehow allowed for this position to occur. Okay, so this bishop is lost. Can't do a whole lot about it, so how about we try and create an escort route down here. Might try and evacuate our king. This is forced. This is a move. But it's checkmate here, which I didn't immediately see. I'll go on ahead here and say thanks for the game to our opponent. Joaquilom from Spain. This wasn't my proudest showing, I have to admit. But it was a game, I guess. Don't quite know the Polish opening, but we'll be analyzing the game, of course, and maybe finding the best response to 1b4. Our opponent here played with 94.3% accuracy, a really good game. I thought my accuracy today would be lower, but we did in fact come through with about 70% here, 69.7. So let's go through the moves. This was apparently good. For some reason I thought this would be worse for white than it was, but it's only 0.1. What happens here? I guess the idea remains pushing the pawn. This was good. It appears our opponent here was a bit familiar with the position. I'm glad I saw this because I think it was an important move to prevent a4 from being played. Still, this was a pretty decent position until it wasn't. We maintained pretty decent equality up till this point. I'm honestly quite glad I found this configuration here, which at first sight it doesn't look all that bad, or rather it seems kind of awkward because we've not developed a single piece and only moved pawns to light squares the entire game. But it was still, objectively speaking, a decent enough approach to be considered equality. So what we should have done here probably is something like this and castle. Most likely this was the best approach. Let's have a look here. Not this. Starting out like this. Apparently it's not the best move because the evaluation drops a bit. Okay, this move apparently, which I did look at, but somehow I thought this was not all that good. This isn't all that difficult, it's not all that easy to find this kind of an idea because you kind of willingly give up the bishop here. But at the same time, you could argue your pawns are on light squares, so giving up the light squared bishop is not all that bad. That's some high level stuff though, and not something I find intuitively. Played this blunder instead. Found some decent moves as a follow-up. All good moves here. Well, okay. apparently this should have been played prematurely, anticipating queen down here. We got to this position though, and our opponent just found each and every move. And today we got crushed on the board, not even close, by an opponent that still had 14 minutes and 49 seconds left. Well, playing a game like chess, that's going to be the experience sometimes. Sometimes you just get blown off the board. Still, I do find it quite interesting here. If we go back to, it was this position. This is still quite okay for us. I was afraid it was not quite good, but I'm glad I had a pretty decent idea here in regards to the pawn pushes, and the engine seems to be quite okay with the position. I just kind of forgot myself here for a second and blundered this diagonal play, and the position got quite difficult for a while. Or well, for the remainder of the game rather. But if we had played more defensively like this, maybe it could have been quite okay, I think. Because once we come here, this is already defended along, or here by the queen rather, so taking here doesn't force our pawns apart. Following up with this, getting our king to safety. And of course there is going to be long-term pressure down here, but we could create something as well on the queen side. But well, I guess that's our game for today. We're down 9 points today, but we're still learning, and it's a long-term plan here, getting to 1500. So we'll just take each and every day as they come. So thanks to ELO from Spain for the great game today. They played fantastic chess. And well, thanks for watching to the end of the video as well. This has been our game for today. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your days, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.